All right, folks, back here with part 2 from our orientation. So a little bit about the class components, okay? What's going to count in this class? So we're going to have exams, okay? By the way, there's going to be 3 of them. They're going to be proctored online using Proctorio software. Now that's free and connect. You don't have to buy anything, okay? Now you do get to use a single sheet, 8.5 by 11, a page of notes. You can use front and back. Now the test has a time limit, so here's what I'm going to tell you. Just because you can have some notes doesn't mean you don't need to study, okay? Just warning you. Also, there's going to be practice tests. Now, I can tell you some students don't bother with the practice tests. That is really a bad idea. The practice tests, if you do those practice tests and you know what you're doing and you do well, that tells you you're going to do well on the test, okay? So why you wouldn't do them, I don't know. But I would recommend doing them, getting at least 80% right before the actual test. Okay? All right? Let's see what else. Connect homework. Now, Connect homework, you get 3 chances for each homework problem. Usually most students will get all the credit on the homework. The only time they don't is when they just don't do it. Okay? Now, again, my advice to you, I'm sure you guys know this Chegg thing, or even using AI. Okay, fine. So you may use Chegg. That can help you on your homework assignments, but you won't be able to use it on the test. Totally bad idea. And just to let you know, typically what I would see when students are like, Dr. Cohen, I don't understand. I got 100 on all the homework and I fail all the tests. Well, normally that means something's up. And I go in there and look, and it took them 20 minutes to do the homework when it should have taken them 3 hours. So they were busy using Chegg or what have you. So don't do that. It's not going to help you, okay? And again, I use the highest score, okay? I only record the highest score. Smart book assignments, again, this is to help you get into the textbook. The bottom line here, a lot of students don't want to read. I get that. But unfortunately, you're in college and reading's part of it. And the higher you go in college, the more that's likely to happen. So, you know, at the end of the day, you're here to acquire a certain set of knowledge and education. So you might as well go ahead and work on that and do it. And SmartBook helps you figure out what you know and don't know. Okay? So I definitely recommend, well, it's required, but I recommend you doing it. Again, notice, late assignments, not allowed. And here's the breakdown of your grade. 50% are coming from tests. Homework, the 2 lowest will be dropped. That's 20%. Chapter quizzes, 2 lowest will be dropped. And then SmartBook, 2 lowest will be dropped. So you got 2 drops on everything except for the exams. They're all going to count. And again, they count for 50%. Okay? So there are some bonuses. Notice here, there's a bonus. It's called Ask a Question, Get an Answer. So if you ask questions, meaning you go online, use the discussion board and ask questions, you can get some bonus points. And again, I'm looking for actual questions, right? And if you help, you know, if one of your classmates, I've seen it happen before, one of your classmates has a question and you know the answer and you want to help them out, that helps you with bonus points too, okay? So you could take a look here and see how it is, but you can basically get maximum, basically the most you could get is 4 points on your final grade. What does that mean? That means if you had a 88, then you had a 92. If you had a 75, now you have a 79, okay? Now that's if you do them in the discussion board, in Canvas, so that everybody can benefit. Now, you can still ask me personally if you don't want to go through that, that's fine, but you don't get extra credit. And if it's of a personal nature, then obviously get in touch with me directly, okay? Again, makeup exams or assignments, things like that, really depends upon what the reasoning is. And then incompletes, sometimes people are like, well, can I get an incomplete because I didn't do all the work? An incomplete is not given because you didn't do your assignments or whatever, okay? An incomplete is something, you're in a hospital, something like this happens, okay? And it has to be approved, okay? All right, so just to let you know. Notice, incompletes are not given because you're going to get a D or an F, okay? So just keep that in mind, all right? Now, the last item we're going to take a look at, here's the assignments. So notice we start here, this is May 27th right here, right? Well, first 2 chapters, chapter 1 and 2. Smart Book, they're due on Thursday. You're going to have a lot of work. So notice, 2 days in the class, you got 2 assignments due. There's a bunch of orientation assignments due. Those are also due on the 29th. So you're going to have probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 assignments due on Thursday the 29th. On Friday, the first chapter homework is due. On Saturday, the discussion board, if you want that bonus, is due. And on Monday, the chapter 2 homework is due. Okay? And it kind of follows that pattern all the way through. If you take a look here, the next one, chapter 3 and 4, same type of situation here. And notice, your first test is on June 10th. Okay? So this June 10th is due by this date. No later than that date, right? That's when it's due. And we're also going to be doing chapter 6 through 8. So you're going to be doing a lot of stuff at one time, folks. Okay? So I just want to make sure you know and understand. Okay? By the way, most people wind up doing well as long as they're, as long as they're diligent about their work. If you're diligent, you do the right thing, you do your homework, you ask questions, you really try, chances are you're going to be just fine. But if you were looking, you're like, man, I want to take a nice, easy class this summer, just something to kind of chillax and blah, blah, blah. Wrong class. Just the wrong class. Okay? All right, now down here at the very end, I have some suggestions. Okay? Reading the chapter. Again, I mentioned that before. Read the chapter. Yep. And by the way, terminology. Like, a lot of times questions are easy, but if you don't know the terms, like, if I asked you, is the sky blue, right? Well, that's an easy question. Most of the time, the sky is blue, right? But sky is blue. Well, if you don't know what the sky is, how are you going to answer the question? That's what happens to students that don't read the textbook. They don't know the terms. So even the easiest of questions, the give me questions, the ones that are give you points, make it easy, you can't answer those because you don't understand, you don't know the words. You don't know the terms. Watching all the lecture videos. You guys are online. If you don't watch all these videos, you're crazy. That's basically like skipping class. And you got to watch them actively, like take notes. This isn't like binge watching, Seinfeld on Netflix. You have to pay attention. You have to be engaged. This is you doing the class, right? There are problem videos where I show you how to do the problems. The same thing there. Start your assignments early, okay? Listen, stuff happens in life. Get things done early. You don't want to wait. By the way, I see it all the time. People waiting till the very end trying to get things done. And for sure, when you do that, that's when something's going to happen. And then finally, asking me for assistance. Generally, my experience is 2 issues. Okay? All right? Generally, the only time that students tend to contact me is at the end of the semester, and it's apparent they're at risk of not passing the class. And all of a sudden, it's like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? What can you do? Can you give me extra credit or whatever? And the answer to that question is no, because I can't do one thing for you and then not do it for the other people. Okay? And then sometimes they're just reluctant. They don't want to be bothered or whatever. That's my job to answer the questions for you. Okay? So they either wait too long or they don't want to be bothered. Okay? So they're reluctant to contact their professor, and then when they do, by that time it's so desperate. You got 12 chapters worth of stuff or 11 chapters worth of stuff that you don't understand, and you think in one day you're going to understand it. It's just not going to happen. Okay? All right, so I just want to warn you about all that stuff. All that being said, I've been pretty fortunate lately. Historically, this class, to let you know, had a 30 or 40% failure rate. Recently, I've been pretty successful with the students. One time it was less than probably 5-10%. That's kind of how it's been for me. But you got to do this stuff. You got to use the tools. And if you need to ask questions, you need to do it. All right, folks, that's part 2 of the orientation. I'm going to be back with part 3, which is going to be about the Canvas setup in just a minute.